We are back here now on the show to move on to a more up-to-date topic, the kickoff rule, the new kickoff format that has really dominated, I think, the headlines up until this point after the Hall of Fame game. That's pretty much what everybody wanted to see. That's what everybody tuned in to see. Not to disrespect the players on the field, but there was no CJ Stroud, no Stephon Diggs, no Caleb Williams. Everybody was tuning in to see this new kickoff format. How was it going to be, defended? How were teams going to attack it? What was it all about heading into Thursday? Last Thursday, I should say. But now, after that, now that everybody got a taste of it a little bit, we're already talking about changes to it. We're already talking about how we can improve it, make it better in some people's eyes. It only took about 2 days for somebody, the head coach of the Denver Broncos, Sean Payton, to suggest something new to be, altered with the new format based on the rules, based on the touchback rules and how, it is laid out based on the scenario of where the kickoff goes and everything like that. He was asked about it on Saturday, and basically his main worry, his main idea with, his statement that I'm going to read out to you guys is that he's worried about, these new changes based on how the rules are laid out and where the ball is placed on each touchback. He's basically worried that nothing will actually change and that teams will still opt out for trying to kick it out through the end zone, trying to kick it into the end zone for a touchback. So that's the main idea of it, but he went more into detail of it here in the next slide I have for you guys. Here in his statements, he mentioned how nothing's really going to change. Basically saying if the analytics tell me the average drive starter or the average drive start or average return is past the 30, well, what do you think is going to start happening? Touchbacks. We're going to be right back to where we were, and that's the last thing we want. We've got to pay attention to that. And it is, it's not something like illegitimate or anything like that. It is a pretty significant concern in some people's eyes. The 30-yard line, I think, before, or at least at the start of this, new proposal to change the kickoff format, was deemed as something that was a decent starting point for some touchbacks. The 30-yard line, that's already from the 30 to the 25, even the 20-yard line. It makes a significant difference to how the drive overall, goes out and plays out and how successful a team is based on, just starting 5 yards ahead of where you usually start at the 25 from last year. And it seemed like that was already enough, but, his idea is that with the success of the kickoff returns nowadays, or how it is projected to be in 2024, if the average start is already at the 30, teams are going to relinquish that, idea of defending and just kick it out for a touchback if teams are just going to average getting to the 30-yard line anyway. So it kind of makes sense, but I'm not really 100% buying it. I am, but I'm also not for one reason only. Just to give a little bit more context, if you guys aren't aware of the 3 different types of touchbacks that will be in the new format in 2024, the most severe touchback for the kicking team will be a starting point at the 40-yard line for the receiving team. And for that to happen, the kickoff is either going to go out of bounds, and already, that carries on from last year. If you kick it out of bounds, you're going to start at the 40-yard line. So that doesn't change. But also, with the new format, if the kickoff fails to reach the landing zone, which is the 20-yard line to the goal line of the end zone, if it fails to reach that, then it also will start at the 40-yard line. So, if you're not reaching the landing zone, like, what are we talking about? Like, actually you being on kickoffs. If you're not reaching the landing zone, that's more on the kickoff team rather than on the rules as a whole. So that's something that I didn't find too big of a problem with. The other one is the one that Sean Payton referenced in his statement. A touchback at the 30-yard line will happen if the kickoff is kicked through the back of the end zone on the fly, or if the kick lands in the end zone directly without hitting the landing zone prior to that, and it is down in the end zone, so like a typical touchback, or if it's kicked through the back of the end zone as well on the fly. And again, that's just basically the kickoff team, relinquishing any, idea of wanting to defend the kickoff, wanting any idea of trying to give up additional yards past the 30. They're just going to say, all right, we'll live with 30. you guys can take it. We're going to kick this thing through the back of the end zone. That's that scenario. And the last one would be a touchback to the 20-yard line, which would be the worst starting spot available for the receiving team. That will only happen if the kick hits the landing zone and then rolls into the end zone, and the receiving team elects to just down it and start at the 20-yard line, preventing a kickoff return from happening, just weaseling out of it, basically is how I think of it. So those are the three different types of touchbacks we could see in 2024, and Sean Payton isn't too content with the 30. He believes that kickoff teams, receiving teams, will be very successful in returning it past the 30-yard line, and he suggested that instead of the 30, they should move it up to at least the 35-yard line, just to assure that nobody even thinks about a touchback or any of that being of a possibility, to try and avoid the opposing team from starting at the 35. And what's funny about that, that suggestion, is that was actually the original proposal. That was the original idea with one of these touchbacks, that it would have started at the 35-yard line, but the NFL changed it just a few days before the owners and everybody voted on it, because they didn't want to make it too overpowered or too much in favor of the receiving team to just start it at the 35. So they moved it back to the 30, and you guys could clearly see that Sean Payton isn't too big a fan of it. If receiving teams are already going to be successful at it, teams are just going to opt out to just kick it at the 30 in fear almost of trying to prevent as much yards in terms of starting point as they can. But further along, Sean Payton suggested something else that he would like to change, and that was the amount of the touchbacks. The three that I just mentioned, he thinks that's one too many. In his opinion, he said, the other thing I think is significant is I don't like the three different starting spots. If it's outside the landing zone, put it at the same spot. I think right now it'll take a lot of fans a lot of time to figure out the three spots, and that's as far as his suggestions went. The amount of touchbacks and one of them starting at the 30, he would like it to start at the 35. And just my overall thoughts on what Sean Payton said. Basically, this is still an experimental period, I think, for the NFL with this new kickoff format. Sean Payton suggested that there probably could be, and he expected there to be, some tweaks, some modifications as we go on through the regular season and probably through the preseason as well. And I would agree with that. I think right now we're only one game into it, so as more teams start to figure it out, if this week alone you see like 5 kickoff returns or something like that, or multiple in a game, maybe we could start altering some things. Right now it's very much a tryout period still for this new kickoff format. It's not like they had a season or something to really play with this. They just voted on it in the spring, basically, and now they're trying to implement it already. So there's going to be some things that don't work, some things that look a little bit funny. Sean McVay was another coach that said it just looks weird from his standpoint and how different it looks from anything he's ever seen in the NFL. So right now, it's really just taking everybody to get a good view on it, a handle of it per se, if you're trying to coach this especially. Also, I like the idea that Sean Payton mentioned, starting at the 35-yard line. I really don't want to see any teams just being chicken about it and just kicking it out the back of the end zone anyway. I just feel like this new kickoff format needs to see that change happen, needs to see these teams return kicks more often. And if teams just decide to be okay with allowing teams to start at the 30, then I think, yes, something really does need to change, or else all of this is just for nothing. So I would like to see that. And the fact that it was a rule originally to start at the 35, I think makes it a little bit worse that they sort of changed it last minute. I think they should bring it back up to the 35, just to avoid that, any sort of stubbornness from teams to have kickoff returns happening if they're defending it. And also, just lastly, on his last statement about the 3 spots, I don't think it's too hard to figure out, honestly. Yeah, it's new. Yeah, fans have no idea what this is. It's probably less than 10% of NFL fans have actually watched an XFL game to see what this new kickoff format kind of is. So to now see this on your screen, if you've never watched the XFL, don't really follow the offseason or anything like that, and really know too much about this new kickoff rule, it probably looks like it doesn't even look like probably football to some fans by seeing this new format. But I don't think it's too hard to figure out, honestly. Once you look into it more, find the rules, it's not too hard to decipher between the three spots at the 40, at the 35, and at the 20-yard line, or at the 30, I should say right now. For Sean Payton to suggest that if it doesn't reach the landing zone, you should put it still at the same spot, the 30 or the 35-yard line. That's the one rule that carries over from last year. If you kick it out of bounds or it's just a missed kick overall, it goes to the 40-yard line. So that's the one rule that kind of carries over. So to change that one, I think is a little backwards, honestly. But again, I don't think it's too hard to figure out the new ones. And it's really not about, honestly speaking, it's not really about fans trying to understand it, because it's going to happen either way. This new format is going to happen whether or not fans understand it. But in a way, you'd rather have more fans not understand it and have it be the right decision than the other way around, and having fans, completely know what's going on, but still hate it because they don't think it's a right rule, or they don't think it's improving the game anyway. So if some fans have to take that little bit of extra time to go out of the way, look up the rules, and figure out where is this team supposed to start, the 40, the 30, or the 20 in each of these scenarios, it's not going to be that hard. And I think a lot of fans are going to like it, honestly. I think it's going to be a good change if, and only if, these NFL teams don't just opt out and decide to just kick touchbacks a lot during these games. I think if it produces the changes we want to see and we see a lot more returns, then this will be only a beneficial thing for the NFL. We're going to see more players become more important in the three facets of football, not just defense and also offense, where it's heavily dominated already. Special teams can become something of an importance. You could see random players you've never even heard of, make a name for themselves, and now they become a vital piece to a championship-winning team or something like that. All of this, I think it only makes it better for players to earn roster spots, NFL to be a lot more innovative and creative, and bring something that's unusual, uncomfortable, ugly at times, and I think it all will be for the best overall. I'm a big fan of it. Sean Payton, I like some of his suggestions, but again, I think it's fine the way it is right now. The only thing I would change is the 30 being the touchback starting spot. I would change it to the 35 to make sure no team has any idea of trying to just kick touchbacks for the sake of it. But it is a big change coming, so let me know what you guys think of it. Are you guys for or against the new kickoff format? Do you think it will improve or not do anything at all to the NFL and seeing more action on kickoffs? Leave your guys' thoughts in the comment section, but that allows us to move on to some new topics during the rest of this show. We're going to talk about some more of the Steelers quarterback battle. Arthur Smith now talking about the creativity that Justin Fields brings to this offense, and also Justin Jefferson talking about how he plans on staying healthy the majority of the season now that he is the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Those topics are coming up right after this. You're listening to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast.